Opening weekend is in the books, and oh my, there's a lot to talk about. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Monday, April 1st. Make sure, keep that head on a swivel here on this April Fool's Day, because people get pretty crazy on the internet, man. Frank Stampfl joined by Scott White and Chris Towers today on the show. Opening weekend recap, injury replacements, waiver wire moves, new pitches, velocity changes, all that fun stuff. Let's jump in.
Oh my goodness! Unbelievable!
Unbelievable. Oh my goodness. Standouts from the weekend. Scott, the birthday boy, I might add. Happy birthday, Scott.
Thank you, Frank.
You will lead off the show. Who you got?
I'm 40, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. It's a big.
He's
birthday.
a man.
It's a big number, man.
I'm a man.
He's
40.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Go after him.
Jeez. Wow. Thanks for I'm thinking how old I was when that clip aired, and man, how far away am I from 40? It felt at the time, but here we are, and I'm 40. Anyway, okay, Jared Jones is who I'm going with. He had a big start for the Pirates, major league debut even for the Pirates on Saturday. Struck out 10 at Miami in 5 2/3 innings. 3 earned runs allowed. So, he gave him some runs, but only 5 base runners in the 5 2/3 innings. Struck out 10, 22 swinging strikes on 89 pitches. And it was just like pure stuff for this guy, because it was pretty much just fastball, slider. That he threw each like 45% of the time. 10 of the whiffs came on the slider, 11 on the fastball. That's a lot of whiffs for a fastball, which peaked at 99.9. Couldn't get it quite up to 100 there in this start. But it was impressive. Obviously, he turned some heads this spring, but we didn't see like huge strikeout numbers for him. So, the velocity got headlines, but I wasn't sure if it would be as effective as we need it to be, especially since he's a rookie and, there's going to be innings limitations and all that. But this was impressive enough that I would have to say Jared Jones is somebody who you have to find a way to get on your roster if he's still available in your league. And he's available in more than half of CBS leagues, I believe.
Not anymore. 57% rostered.
Okay, so he's already been added in some, probably. Still available in a good chunk of CBS sports leagues. And I would say is we need to get that roster rate up around 90% probably for Jared Jones.
Yeah, I am doing a waiver wire piece that's going out on like Sunday afternoon, hopefully afternoons, maybe closer to like 7 or 8, maybe evening, maybe supper time. And I wrote about 5 must-add pitchers coming out of the first weekend of the season, and we will talk more about all of these guys, I'm sure, coming up. But Jared Jones was one of them. Jack Flaherty, Garrett Crochet, Abner Uribe, and Jason Foley were the other ones. And the question I want to ask dovetails into my, oh my goodness gracious, player of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Would you drop AJ Puck for any of Crochet, Jones, or Flaherty? Flaherty's 77% rostered, so he barely qualifies, but would you drop AJ Puck for any of those 3?
All right, list them off again for me.
Jack Flaherty, Jared Jones, and Garrett Crochet.
Well, I do think they're the must-adds among starting pitchers, certainly. And so if it came to it, I suppose I'd have to from this
is your last chance to get
game
them.
Theory, right? Like this is your last chance to get them. And AJ Puck was terrible in his first start. He walked 6. If you happen to miss it, walk 6. And
I was watching.
Oh, I know you were. I'm talking to the audience when I say that. AJ Puck walked 6 in 2 innings against the Pirates. So it was really bad. And if you're in the kind of shallow league where it's hard to justify an unproven starter who has a bad debut like that, then okay, you can probably justify dropping Puck for one of those guys, Flaherty, Garrett Crochet, and Jared Jones, who showed with their first start of the season that they may have as much, if not more, upside than Puck anyway. Having said that, speaking to the general fantasy player out there, speaking to people who hopefully have somebody worse than Puck on their roster, because I doubt Puck was a last round pick for anybody. I don't want to drop Puck.
Agreed.
I don't want to drop AJ Puck because I think the 6 walks that he had against the Pirates were so out of character that something weird was obviously going on, and we just have to toss this start out because we can't make a fair assessment off of it. And both Puck and his manager Skip Schumacher after the game made reference to a grip issue that might explain it. And
it was a game in Miami, even in April. It's muggy, it's gross. The roof was open, which almost never happens in Miami. The roof was open for all 3 games this weekend. I don't think we'll ever see that again. The players were not happy about that today, if you saw. And one thing that I definitely noticed with Puck in particular was his sweeper was his most used pitch. He threw it 23 times out of 68 pitches. And the movement profile was all jacked up on that pitch. He added 6 inches of vertical break and 3 inches of horizontal break on the sweeper, while also being down 3.3 miles per hour with his velocity. And so what that might suggest to me is partially just the grip issue, like you said they alluded to. It could also just be that, like, because he's starting now, he can't throw with as much effort as he did in the bullpen, and he still has to calibrate the movement of that pitch at a, like, you know, because it's a sweeper, because it has so much horizontal, because it has so much sweep, that it could be the kind of thing that he's not used to the movement profile of this pitch at this velocity band.
Now, do you happen to remember seeing a lot of velocity from a lot of StatCast data, I guess, or whether it's velocity readings from Puck or movement profiles of his pitch? Do you happen to remember seeing a lot of that data during the spring? Because I didn't, and so I don't know how to take the fact that his velocity was down 3 miles per hour on virtually everything. Not uncommon for a pitcher moving from relief to starting, but I don't know if that was going on this spring, if it's something we can attribute to the grip issue or not. I don't really know about that, but the bottom line is AJ Puck was dominant this spring. He walked 4 for all of spring training. He issued 2.1 walks per 9 last year. This was just weird. And, you know, if it continues, then obviously, okay, this isn't working for AJ Puck and we have to move on. But look what happened to Yoshinobu Yamamoto first start versus second start. You know, like it is just one start. And because it's so weird and out of character, I think we just have to say, okay, well, let's see what the next one looks like. And if there's more problems and they're not still citing the grip issue, they're moving the goalposts and coming up with some other explanation. All right, something, I don't know. You guys are begging for a solution here. But right now, I'm going to take their word for it on the grip issue and give Puck at least one more. Yeah,
agreed on Jones, Crochet, and Flaherty are the only 3 pitchers I would drop AJ Puck for, right? Well, Foley and who was the Abner Uribe? Yeah, I would drop him for those 2 if I need saves specifically, not in a head-to-head points league. I'd rather take the chance on Puck's upside as a sparp. But yeah, he's and specifically, like, why I would rather have Garrett Crochet is, 1, he was already better, and 2, he's making the same change that AJ Puck is, going from the bullpen to the rotation, and he added velocity to his fastball and slider and looked really good. So I just think I had Puck 90 spots ahead of Crochet in the rankings, but the difference between 312 and 212 or whatever it was, 222, is small enough that I'm fine making that jump.
Somebody in a similar situation to AJ Puck, Luis Severino, had a great spring, and we were excited about him because they said they figured out the pitch tipping issues, and he got rocked his first time out as well against the Brewers. 5 innings, 12 hits allowed, 6 earned runs. Didn't walk anyone, so that was the good news for him. 6 strikeouts, but didn't get many whiffs, only 6 swinging strikes. The fastball was down 1 mile per hour. He is also 79% rostered, so in a similar range to Puck. Would you drop Severino for any of those pitchers mentioned, Flaherty, Crochet, and Jared Jones?
For those 3, yeah.
I'd have an easier time doing it with Severino than those other three, since Severino's coming off a season as awful as it was, and most of my enthusiasm for him was based on the Mets saying, "Oh, we fixed the pitch tipping issue." For what it's worth, it was 54 degrees in that game, and Severino said he was having a hard time getting his breaking ball going in those conditions. And so he just didn't have anything to like vary the movement profile. So, that seems like a valid enough explanation if he turns around and in regular conditions has a great start.
And
But
I'll point out a lot of weak contact early on in that start. And there was one hit that definitely should have been an error that I think led to a run. We're making excuses to a certain extent, but I don't think in watching him it was as bad as the score would make you think. I'll say that. I think just taking what they did in their first starts, Severino pitched a lot better than Puck. That's not to say I would rather have Severino than Puck, but Severino pitched better than Puck did, at least. I mean, that's a relatively low bar because
Puck
Bailey Ober might be the only pitcher who pitched worse. Freeland. Might be the only pitchers who pitched worse than AJ Puck this weekend. But yeah, like Severino, Mike Soroka, who's on a different level but was rostered in some leagues, I would happily drop him for those three guys.
There are what I consider to be dart throw pitchers that you don't really have any idea what to think, but there was enough reason for hope, I guess, that you maybe took a flyer on them, and that would include like Mike Soroka or Ryan Weathers, who also pitched.
Yeah, Trevor Rogers was also bad for the Marlins. Yeah,
Trevor Rogers, sure. Like, I would say that, especially AJ Puck, but Luis Severino also to agree, they rise above that dart throw level for me. So I try really hard not to drop them. But if you have to drop Soroka or Ryan Weathers or anybody like that to get whoever you feel like you need to get, I'd be okay with it. It doesn't mean I won't keep an eye on how their next few starts go, but I don't have nearly as much optimism with them as I did with Puck and Severino.
All right, a standout for me this weekend. No surprise. Going with the homer pick. Break out the brooms, by the way. Let's go, Yankees. Oswaldo Cabrera. He had a huge first series against the Houston Astros, 2 for 4 with a home run on opening day. He went 4 for 5 with 3 RBI on Friday. Hit another home run on Saturday. He's only 17% rostered. Outfield only on CBS. To start the season, he will gain third base eligibility. He's currently filling in for DJ LeMahieu. They acquired John Birdie, so maybe, if Oswaldo Cabrera cools down, he'll lose some playing time to John Birdie, but Cabrera is someone who looked pretty good when he came up as a rookie 2 years ago in 2022, and then last year, kind of in a super utility role, did not perform well. 115 games, hit 211, 5 homers, 8 steals, a 574 OPS. Widely available, like I mentioned, only 17% rostered. In 15-team leagues and leagues deeper than that, I saw people adding him already. Any enthusiasm here for Oswaldo Cabrera?
The problem is, I think there are at least 3 outfielders who are really widely available that I'd rather have. And at the third baseman, I'm interested in your thoughts, because I think I'd rather have JD Davis than Cabrera, but I'm interested in your thoughts. And then the outfielders would be Victor Scott, but I think he's probably already rostered where he needs to be. But then Michael Conforto, Mitch Haniger, and Jose Siri's got some really interesting stuff going on. And I think I'd rather take the flyer on him in a deeper league than Oswaldo Cabrera.
Yeah, I think my only interest in Oswaldo Cabrera is in the leagues where the players you listed off are mostly rostered already.
Yeah.
So we're talking deeper roto leagues, 5 outfielder leagues. I think it's a closer call with JD Davis.
They're 14 and 17% rostered. So
I might go with the mystery box, the relative mystery box. Obviously, we've seen some of Cabrera in the majors, but not given full run at a position like he's getting right now. and a year older and all that. So I might go with him over JD Davis, but the others you mentioned, Jose Siri, and who are some of the others?
Michael Conforto, Mitch Haniger.
Yeah. Conforto. I don't have a lot of faith in Conforto,
Sure.
but he's just so hot right now that I might lean him over Cabrera too, because basically hotness is the only reason we're going with Cabrera.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I would take Siri. He said he wanted to steal 30 bases coming into the season. I think he already has three
or
steals.
4. Yeah.
3 steals this weekend. So he's off and running. Yeah, the Conforto thing. Maybe I would take Cabrera over Conforto just to see
that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's close enough.
But I've talked about Mitch Haniger for a while now. So I would take Haniger, and I think as long as he's healthy, he's going to perform pretty well. An honorable mention for player of the weekend, Lourdes Gurriel. What a weekend for this guy. 8 hits, 3 homers, 10 RBI, and a steal. Obviously, a really small sample size, and going up against Rockies pitching is going to help. But so far, lots of fly balls for Gurriel to the pull side. So this could unlock a new level of upside for Gurriel that we haven't seen before. And he's obviously batting third for what looks to be a pretty damn good Diamondbacks lineup. So we'll see how much of this he can, carry on with this season. Again, that is Lourdes Gurriel. The dishonorable mentions, Aaron Nola. I get it's the Braves, but 12 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 1/3 innings, gave up 2 homers in this start. Lots of hard contact. Velocity looked fine. Pitch mix basically the same. This is part of the Aaron Nola experience. And look, I'm not going to make too much out of one start, but part of the problem is when he gets hit really hard, and he could just have these blow up starts. And that's exactly what happened for Aaron Nola.
Yeah, there will be better days for Aaron Nola for sure, but you can't help but feel like here we go again, seeing this start and the recap of this game talked about him leaving too many pitches over the plate, which is like his pure stuff isn't good enough for him to survive that. He has to be really pinpoint with his control and really work the edges of the plate, as we talked about that being part of his problem last year that he solved before the playoffs because he was pointing his shoulder. He was looking at the wrong pitch clock behind the batter, and so his shoulder was kind of turned in, and it was causing him to leave pitches over the plate. I don't know if that's what happened in this start, but for whatever reason, he was leaving pitches over the plate, and he got destroyed again. So it just, I think that that level of volatility is just going to remain a part of Nola's profile, and that doesn't mean he can't have years where he's more consistent than others, but not off to a good start this year.
One other dishonorable mention, Bailey Ober. More like Bailey, take the Ober when he pitches. Am I right? He got bombed at the Royals. He recorded 4 outs, 9 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 homers allowed. He gave me a cool negative 18.5 fantasy points in the podcast league against Scott, by the way. So
you were laughing that I started. I almost called him Jeff Francis, but his name's not Jeff Francis. His name is Kyle Freeland. In that NL only league. Now you know how it feels, Frank.
This is my karma.
And look, all the stuff we said about Aaron Nola kind of applies to Bailey Ober. Like, he doesn't have overwhelming stuff. He's always going to be someone who has a very thin margin for error. I think the hope was that with the velocity up and, with a new breaking ball, maybe that would help overcome that, but didn't happen this time. I think it's just one bad start.
Yeah, it's one really, really bad start. And for anyone who has Ober and Aaron Nola on the same team, I'm sorry, gosh.
What's weirdest about this Bailey Ober start, though, is the 1 whiff on 53 pitches. And that was with his fastball being up a mile per hour from last year. Like, those velocity gains from spring, they carried over for Bailey Ober. And he got 1 whiff on 53 pitches against the Royals. That seems like pitch tipping. That's the kind of stuff you see when a guy's tipping his pitches. I didn't see any mention of that, but I wonder if it's going to come out for Bailey Ober, because it doesn't seem like this should happen to Bailey Ober, especially against that lineup.
Are you still starting him this week against Cleveland if you drafted Bailey Ober?
I would.
Unless it's like a shallow league where you got great alternatives. I mean, I'd like to be able to sit him, but in most cases, I don't think you're going to have anyone good enough to do that with.
Yeah, and I don't have stats to back this up, but just thinking about it, it's whenever a pitcher gets rocked, it feels like they kind of settle down in their next start and they're just like really like hone in. And it's not the case for every pitcher, but
Like
I feel
Yamamoto.
for pitchers who are talented, they more often than not, they bounce back in the
I am in a situation. It's not Bailey Ober, but I am sitting Zach Eflin in one league because I have Jack Flaherty.
Right.
And Jack Flaherty has Oakland. Zach Eflin has Texas. So like in most circumstances, I would say you're not sitting Bailey Ober, but it's possible that, I think Zach Eflin and Bailey Ober, I like Zach Eflin more, but really tough matchup against Texas. I'm sitting him.
I would start Flaherty over Bailey Ober this week too. So
I think I would as well, but that's the Oakland of it also.
Right. Yep.
But Flaherty might also just be back.
He might be, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's take our first break. When we return, lots of injuries, some news to get to. We'll talk about that right after this.
The blackout mystery remains.
Welcome to March Madness. You just never know in the tournament who is going to shine.
Stream March Madness live on any device, anywhere, and be ready for anything.
Big injuries from the weekend. We already knew about two of them. We just did not know the severity, and it turns out Royce Lewis suffered a severe quad strain and will be sidelined for over a month. The Twins promoted prospect Austin Martin. Willie Castro started at third base this weekend and does have some stolen base upside if you play in a categories league. Any interest in Austin Martin, former first-round pick, 7 homers, 19 steals in 67 games in the minors last year?
It would have to be a deep league, but I'm not going to say there's no interest there. 263, 387, 405 at AAA with 16 steals in 59 games. I think in deeper category leagues, he could be, if he sticks, a 10 homer, 20 steal guy. I think that's the ceiling probably, but it's possible.
Okay. Justin Steele was diagnosed with a grade 1 left hamstring strain and is expected to miss all of April. The Cubs promoted one of their top pitching prospects, Ben Brown, 6'6" righty. He pitched in relief on Saturday, gave up 6 runs over an inning and 2/3. And there's lots of strikeout upside here, but the ratios have kind of been questionable in the minors. I don't think we have any interest in Ben Brown, right? I don't even think he's going to start.
Yeah, he made an appearance and it was a disaster.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Sean Murphy diagnosed with a grade 1 left oblique strain, and Travis d'Arnaud is the obvious backup there, and he'll step in as the starter. Really good lineup. He's 36% rostered. We'll talk a little bit more about injury replacements in a little bit. But some other news and notes from the weekend. Rafael Devers was out Friday and Saturday due to shoulder soreness, but was back in the lineup on Sunday, thankfully. Bo Bichette was scratched on Sunday due to neck spasms. Bryce Harper took a pretty nasty spill in the camera well on Saturday and then was out of the lineup on Sunday. Manager Rob Thompson said it was a scheduled off day for Harper and was not related to that. So I don't know if I believe him, but hopefully he's in the lineup on Monday.
Yeah, we're gonna start him anyway.
Right.
By the way, tomorrow is the 11 a.m. first start time, right?
I don't think so. I think there's a 2:00 game.
Okay.
No, yeah,
okay.
Tomorrow's not.
I may be getting ahead of myself. Sorry about that.
That's the Boston Marathon day, right? The Red Sox do that.
Yeah.
It's usually Patriots Day.
That's
That's
a couple weeks from now, it seems like. Yeah. That's not until April 15th.
My bad. April 15th, yeah.
My bad.
Still worth mentioning that people, you got to set your lineups before 2 p.m. On Monday because
and next Monday as well.
There's 2 games at 2. There's another game at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So just keep that in mind. Justin Verlander will throw a live batting practice on Monday, and if that goes well, he'll go out on a rehab assignment. Yuri Perez threw a bullpen session Saturday, his first time throwing off a mound since experiencing inflammation in his right elbow. Mets president of baseball operations, David Stern, said Friday that it would be 1 to 2 weeks before a throwing program is laid out for Kodai Senga. Kenley Jansen was unavailable Saturday due to a tight back. And
I think he was also unavailable Sunday as well.
Yeah, I saw... I don't even know the person's name, but someone recorded a 7-out save for the Red Sox here on Sunday. So, this back thing continues to pop up for Kenley. Not good. Gleyber Torres took a pitch off his right thumb on Friday, but x-rays came back negative. He was in the lineup on Saturday and Sunday. Mitch Garver missed Friday and Saturday due to back spasms. So Team Cramful has to pick up a catcher, unfortunately. Eloy Jimenez was removed Sunday due to left adductor soreness, and I think I read this is something he's dealt with in the past as well.
Yeah, he went on the IL last year, I believe, with this injury.
Not good. Not good for him. Alec Thomas was removed Sunday due to an apparent injury. Did anyone see what that was for Alec Thomas?
Did not know.
Yep. All right. DJ LeMahieu has a non-displaced bone fracture in his right foot and will be re-imaged in 2 weeks.
Classic Yankees.
Jose Abreu,
Just saying for a week and a half, there's no fracture.
right?
And then, oh, we found one.
Yeah. How did that get there? Jose Abreu was hit in the hand on Saturday and then was out of the lineup on Sunday. Max Kepler was out on Saturday and Sunday after fouling a ball off his right leg on opening day. Anthony DeSclafani will miss the entire season after undergoing flexor tendon surgery on his right elbow. And there was lots of rehab assignments either started or announced this weekend. Walker Buehler made a rehab start at AAA on Sunday. Wasn't great. 3 1/3, 4 runs allowed, 3 earned, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Sonny Gray will pitch at AAA on Wednesday. He's on the 15-day IL with a right hamstring strain. Lars Nootbaar will likely begin a rehab assignment at AAA on Tuesday. He played in a simulated game Saturday and came out of that with no issues. Braxton Garrett threw 2 innings in a game at the Marlins spring training complex. Edward Cabrera began a rehab assignment at AAA on Sunday where he threw 3 shutout innings, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts.
Classic Edward Cabrera.
John Means did not mean business on Sunday. His rehab assignment at AAA, 1 inning, 7 runs allowed, 2 home runs allowed there.
He's going to take the full 30 days for his rehab assignment, I have to imagine.
Probably. I would guess that. Some waiver wire hitters, and we'll take a look at Royce Lewis replacements first. In shallower leagues, 4 third basemen between 50 and 65% rostered. Matt Chapman, who hit 2 home runs on Friday. He had 5 hard hits in that game. He's 64% rostered. Colt Keith is 61%. Michael Garcia, 54%. Hit another home run here on Sunday. And Eugenio Suarez, 50% rostered, had multiple hits in 3 of his first 4 games. How would you guys rank those Royce Lewis replacements? Chapman, Keith, Garcia, Suarez.
Keith, Chapman, Garcia, Suarez for me.
Scott?
I think so, though I don't have a strong leaning toward any one over another. And I don't think there's, Matt Chapman's off to a good start if you want to play the hot hand. Let me see what the Giants are facing this week.
Yeah, they all rank between 18 and 24 for me at third base. So
yeah, Giants matchups aren't great, but I wouldn't blame anybody for picking up Chapman for the hot hand anyway.
I did notice, Scott, that you have the Royals as the best hitter matchups for week 2. So if anyone wants to chase that with Michael Garcia, you can go for it.
See, I already forgot about it. I do have Michael Garcia among my 10 sleeper hitters for next week, and he's the only one of those third basemen you mentioned. So if you're going to play it week by week, then he would be the best choice.
And maybe starting to tap into that power that we've talked about, where 2 home runs early in the first 3 games. He hit the ball hard last year, just never hit it hard in the air at the same time. Might be starting to figure that out.
Slugger Michael Garcia would be nice to see him start running a little bit, but it's hard to run when you're hitting all these home runs.
So you get to jog.
Deeper league Royce Lewis replacements. Jared Triolo, back-to-back multi-hit games on Saturday and Sunday. He added a stolen base on Sunday. He had 2 seasons in the minors with 24+ steals. 35% rostered. Willie Castro, I mentioned the name. He's 26% rostered. He stole over 30 bases last year with the Twins. Graham Pauley hit a pinch hit home run on Saturday, his first career hit, and then he started on Sunday. He is just 7% rostered. And then the aforementioned JD Davis, 14% rostered, a double dong on Friday, started all 4 games for the Oakland A's so far. Any interest in these deeper league names? Triolo, Castro, Graham Pauley, JD Davis.
I think Castro, now that we feel confident he's going to get everyday at bats for the time being. Willie Castro with that steals potential in roto leagues, probably close to a must roster in that format. And that would make him the most interesting by far. Keeping an eye on Graham Pauley. If that playing time improves, I could see him being of interest. But this was this start he got on Sunday was his first, right?
Yeah.
So that's not much happening there yet.
Sean Murphy replacements in 1 catcher leagues. These names are between 50 and 70% rostered on CBS. Jonah Heim, Luis Campusano, who went 3 for 5 with a home run on Sunday, Keibert Ruiz, Alejandro Kirk, and of course there is Travis d'Arnaud. How would you rank those? Heim, Campusano, Ruiz, Kirk, and d'Arnaud.
It would be, well, I guess I can look at my rankings, but off the top of my head, I kind of have the most interest in adding Campusano, even though I do have him ranked below Ruiz and Heim technically. But he's had a really interesting start to the season. 1 strikeout in his first 23 plate appearances. Obviously, Campusano is someone who came on really hot at the end of last season. He's got 9 hits in his first 5 games.
Yeah, they're up to 5 games already.
Or no, they're up to 6.
Okay.
And he's started all 6.
He started 5 of the 6, but that's still a big point in his favor because him being a first-time starting catcher, it wasn't clear how much he'd play. If he'd be one of those guys who starts only 60% of the time, it looks like he's playing a lot for the Padres. So when I do my first in-season ranking update, I imagine Campusano is going to move up. Would I take him over Heim? I still think I'd stick with Heim because of the lineup context, but Campusano might be right behind him.
Some names in 2 catcher leagues: Shea Langoliers, Elias Diaz, Ryan Jeffers, Austin Wells. Those are all 35% rostered or less. And if you play in a 15-team league and you lost Sean Murphy, I don't know what to tell you because
good luck.
It's really bad out there. I looked in a few leagues. I think Ivan Herrera was like the top catcher available.
I think the Marlins have a bunch of lefties on the way. Christian Bettencourt. I think they have like 5 lefties on the schedule this week or something.
Yep.
That might get you through this week.
All right. The non-injury replacements, we already mentioned some of these. Outfielders, Michael Conforto already has 2 home runs. They have 6 games this week, only 1 lefty on the schedule. Taylor Ward, back-to-back games with a home run for the Angels. And I was surprised that he was only 39% rostered on CBS. That seems pretty low.
He was a top 100 pick last year.
Yeah. And Jose Siri had the 2 steals on Friday, and I think he added another one this weekend, so he's got the 3 steals. How do you rank those? Conforto, Taylor Ward, and Jose Siri.
I think I'd go Ward, Siri, Conforto.
I might move Siri ahead of Ward in a categories league.
Okay, yeah.
But and I might move Siri to the bottom in a categories league. No, I'd put him in between the 2. Ward first in a points league, Siri first in a category league.
2 names in deeper leagues. Any interest? Bryce Terang, back-to-back multi-hit games. He had 3 steals on Saturday, added another one on Sunday. So now up to 4 steals already. He did not start on opening day against a lefty. And Braden Shoemake, I didn't know that he was going to be just part of the White Sox plans. I think he's going to start against right-handed pitching. He's, I think, more of a defense-first prospect. Scott, you could talk to him. I know he was in the Braves organization. But he went 1 for 4 with a stolen base on Sunday. He hit a home run on Saturday. That was his first career hit. I mean, this is like real deep league stuff. But anything on Bryce Terang and Braden Shoemake?
They are desperation pickups only for very deep leagues, I would say.
You know, I am realizing like waivers already ran in my AL only labor league, and like I have Paul DeYoung on that team. I probably should have picked up Braden Shoemake and dropped Paul DeYoung.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how, like, if this even lasts. But last year in the minors, Braden Shoemake, 16 homers, 27 steals, a .234 batting average. I lost Matt McClain in the Scott White Dynasty League, so, man, I am scraping the bottom of the barrel for shortstop. So
that's a 24-teamer, just to remind everyone.
Yeah, very, very deep league stuff. Let's talk about some of those waiver wire pitchers and some Justin Steele replacements. I think this makes some sense here. And we already kind of mentioned Jack Flaherty. We haven't talked yet about what he did, but 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts, had 13 swinging strikes. Even more importantly, 0 walks. Great news there for Jack Flaherty. He's up to 77% rostered, so probably just 10-team, maybe some shallower points leagues on CBS. Jared Jones, he had the 10 strikeouts. Seth Lugo, great outing in his Royals debut, 6 shutout innings, 4 strikeouts against the Twins. And Brady Singer, we haven't mentioned yet. He was great as well. 7 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts, 19 swinging strikes. 16 of those came on the slider. I didn't notice that he did anything different. He did throw the slider more in this start, but the velocity was the same. The movement profiles pretty much looked the same as well. Scott, how do you rank this group? Flaherty, Jared Jones, Seth Lugo, Brady Singer.
I think I'm going to lean Flaherty over Jared Jones, and those are by far my favorite two of this group. We talked about Jared Jones already at the top. Flaherty obviously had a good start. You mentioned a lot of what happened there. His slider was up 1.2 miles per hour. His curveball was up 2.3 miles per hour. His fastball was up only 0.4 miles per hour, which was less than we saw this spring, and means it wasn't quite what it was in 2019, the last time he was an ace for fantasy. So it was, I guess that was a little disappointing, but it was 47 degrees outside when he was pitching. So that may have had something to do with it, and I think there's a good chance Flaherty's velocity is up on the fastball even more next time out. As it is, he pitched great. No walks, as you mentioned, plenty whiffs, plenty strikeouts. Overall, a successful outing for Jack Flaherty, and you should be eager to start him this upcoming week with the Athletics on the schedule. So he's number one for me, then Jared Jones. I had Lugo and Singer, originally ranked Lugo ahead of Singer, and I guess I'm going to stick with that. As you pointed out, Frank, I don't really see much that changed for Singer here to explain how he was so dominant, the 10 strikeouts, the 19 swinging strikes. So I'm highly skeptical of it. Obviously, he hasn't been a big strikeout pitcher in the past, and it may have just been one of those days, but it's worth being aware of and keeping an eye on.
Brady Singer had the most impressive start that I'm going to completely ignore so far this season, because he talked about in spring training how he was working on throwing a four-seamer and a sweeper. He said, the quote is, when asked why he was finally considering making the change to those two pitches, he said the reason was probably sucking last year. Probably that's a direct quote. And then he was just the same guy. It was just sinker slider. So I think this might say more about the state of the Twins and how much they are likely to strike out this season than it says anything about Brady Singer. I'll take Lugo over him. I will take each of the next four pitchers we're about to talk about. I think I'd take Eric Fetty over him too.
All right, so let's get into some of those other names. Waiver wire pitchers part 2. Garrett Whitlock looked pretty good at the Mariners. 5 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts to 0 walks, and did change his pitch mix in this one. The changeup was his most used pitch. He added a traditional slider that he used 19% of the time. That is Garrett Whitlock. Jordan Hicks pitched well in his Giants debut at the Padres. 5 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts there. Zach Littell looked great against the Blue Jays. 6 shutout with 6 strikeouts for him. And Reed Detmers had 7 strikeouts over 5 innings at the Orioles. Only allowed 1 run, 17 swinging strikes on 88 pitches for Reed Detmers. Chris, how do you rank this group? Detmers, Littell, Jordan Hicks, and Garrett Whitlock.
I think it's probably context dependent to a certain degree because both Whitlock and Hicks are Sparps, and that would probably put them at the head of the class
So was Littell.
Littell is as well. Yes. Sorry. So I think those three are clearly at the top in a head-to-head points league. Without taking that into consideration, I think I would go, I'm never going to be able to quit Reed Detmers, so he's at the top for me. Detmers, I really like all 4 of these guys. I think they should be rostered in the majority of leagues, certainly. I think I would go Detmers, Littell, Hicks, Whitlock. But I think it's very close, and I like what we saw from all 4 of them.
I'm not as comfortable with Littell as you are, just because I don't think he has the same upside, particularly with regard to strikeouts. So I'm going to put him in a different category from the other 3. But I would say Jordan Hicks, Reed Detmers, and Garrett Whitlock in that order for me all need to be rostered over the 2 Royals we talked about previously, Seth Lugo and Brady Singer. And in particular, I want to point out 2 things here. You mentioned the velocity was down on the slider, right, Frank? It was down about 3 miles per hour. It was closer to where we saw it in 2022 when he had so much success in the second half. And there was talk earlier that he felt like throwing it as hard as he did last year kind of made it less effective ultimately. And so he was trying to get back to the 2022 slider. So far, so good for Reed Detmer. So that was it. The start was very encouraging in that way. And then with Jordan Hicks, so okay, it was a good start. The final line, 3 hits, 1 walk, and 5 shutout innings, 6 strikeouts. Only 8 swinging strikes on 81 pitches. And remember, that was after that really impressive spring with a lot of strikeouts. So was that just all fake? I think maybe not. Yeah, this wasn't a great whiff start for him at San Diego, but 4 of those 8 whiffs came on the splitter, which he threw just 14 times and got 4 whiffs with it. It's a new pitch for him. It's not something Jordan Hicks has had before. And if it turns out to be a really good swing and miss pitch for him with everything else he has, like that feels like that's what Jordan Hicks was lacking during his time in the bullpen. If he adds that while moving to the rotation, he could be a big contributor for fantasy this year. So even prior to the start, I was trying to add Jordan Hicks everywhere. I would be even more eager to do so now.
And I just want to add some color to my Brady Singer skepticism because I'm seeing some Yahoos in the chat popping off. He had a 2-start stretch last year with 19 strikeouts, including a 10 strikeout game against Minnesota. He had a 5-game stretch during that period when he had a 2.45 ERA. Brady Singer has had stretches like this before. He followed that 5-start stretch up by allowing 24 earned runs in his next 24 innings to close out the season. If Brady Singer is good, I will fall on that sword because I am not worried about it.
3 final names in deeper leagues. Eric Fetty actually looked pretty solid, I thought, in his White Sox debut. 4 2/3 innings, 2 runs allowed, 7 strikeouts, and it was a new pitch mix, something we hadn't seen before. It was sinker, sweeper, splitter, cutter. The last time we saw Eric Fetty in the majors, it was just sinker, curve, cutter. So this is just a new version of Eric Fetty. Paul Blackburn pitched well against the Guardians, 7 shutout innings with 3 strikeouts. And then Steven Matz looked pretty good at the Dodgers. 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs allowed, 3 strikeouts. And the sinker actually was up almost 1 mile per hour. Good matchup this week against the Marlins, too. Any interest in deeper leagues? Fetty, Blackburn, Steven Matz.
I was encouraged by these initial returns from Fetty. The strikeouts were better than we saw this spring. That was the biggest thing I was worried about. He got 3+ whiffs on 3 different pitches. It's a sample of 1, and the fact it went only 4 2/3 innings, I mean, it wasn't an amazing return in fantasy, but it was encouraging enough that I wouldn't be looking to drop him. I'd drop him over AJ Puck probably, but I'd like to hold on to Fetty if I was already invested in him. And if I miss out on Jared Jones and Jack Flaherty, those other guys we talked about, I might be putting in a claim for Eric Fetty.
All right, let's take our final break. When we return, talk about a bunch of new pitches and or velocity changes. We'll do that right after this.
Last dance.
I shall follow your lead.
We're on a search for one of the greatest powers ever known. Let's fly.
Welcome in. Let's talk about some new pitches and or velocity changes, or just pitch mix changes so far this year. And let's try and keep it moving because we do still have a lot to get to. But Christian Javier pitched well against the Yankees, 6 shutout innings, 6 strikeouts in that one, only 8 swinging strikes. And I noticed while watching this start, tons of changeups. He threw his changeup 25 times. That is a pitch that Christian Javier has never used more than 6% in any season. Chris, are you encouraged by this outing from Christian Javier, the changeup usage?
Yes, and I'm desperately trying to find it because there was I saw somebody tweet about his fastball as well, and now I can't find it. But apparently the ride on his fastball was back, and that's a big deal for Christian Javier as well. He's got that really unique fastball. So yeah, I think we should be very encouraged by this performance against a Yankees lineup that was very tough the first month or week of the season.
All right, Carlos Rodon on the other side, a little bit shaky at Houston, 4 1/3, 1 run allowed, 4 strikeouts, but he did have 11 swinging strikes and the fastball velocity was actually up a little bit. He threw that new cutter 15 times in this outing. Scott, what did you think from Carlos Rodon here?
Yeah, the fastball seemed fine after a spring of hand-wringing over it, and the slider was up 2 miles per hour. So I don't think velocity is something to be concerned about with Carlos Rodon right now. It wasn't a great start, but it wasn't bad enough that I'm freaking out about him and thinking about dropping him or anything like that. So let's focus on the positives and hope that Carlos Rodon can do even better next time.
Merrill Kelly looked great against the Rockies, 6 2/3 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts to 0 walks, and he used his slider 18% of the time last year. That was just 5.5% usage for Merrill Kelly. Chris, obviously a great matchup here against the Rockies. But I wonder, like, maybe this slider opens up a new level of strikeout upside for Merrill Kelly.
So if I'm remembering correctly, last year the changeup was like a huge swing and miss pitch for him. Like it took a huge step forward in that regard. And look, maybe it's just he has to add one infinity stone at a time to get there. Yeah, we're comparing Merrill Kelly to Thanos now. I would think that there's nothing really there with the slider and that it was just a one-time thing, but it's worth keeping an eye on. I'm not going to go trade for Merrill Kelly based on this, though.
Aaron Savali looked great against the Blue Jays. 6 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts. Only had 5 swinging strikes on 86 pitches. He threw a new sweeper 16 times in this outing. Scott, are you encouraged by what you saw from Aaron Savali here?
Yeah. I don't know that my opinion changed on him one way or another. I think he's going to be pretty globby, but useful enough to keep around in head-to-head points leagues, especially. Good first start.
Okay. Bryce Miller gave up some hard contact against the Red Sox, 4 runs allowed over 5 innings, but he had 16 swinging strikes on 91 pitches, completely changed the pitch mix, lowered that 4-seam fastball usage, and threw a new splitter 22% of the time. And it actually performed pretty well. 6 whiffs, a 60% whiff rate. Chris, this was, I know the results weren't there, but under the hood, it's kind of interesting for Bryce Miller.
Yeah, the splitter looked good. The thing that I keep coming back to with him is last year he would drop his arm slot when he threw his slider and sweeper. And that appeared to still be a bit of an issue today. And then the way that manifested last year was opposing hitters just didn't swing at those 2 pitches. They just laid off of them. And he only got 9 swings on 26 sliders and sweepers today. So still appears to be something of an issue for him. I think it's encouraging. The splitter did look good. You know, I think like watching it, but I'm not necessarily like all in on a Bryce Miller breakout based on this.
All right. Michael King struggled with his control against the Giants. 4 innings, 2 runs, 7 walks to 6 strikeouts, only 4 swinging strikes on 88 pitches. And his velocity was way down. Fastball, sweeper, and sinker, each down 2 miles per hour in this outing. That was the case in his relief appearance in the Korea series as well. Scott, Michael King is 75% started. Would you start him at the Giants this week, or maybe kind of wait and see what happens from here?
I would try not to start him. I said the same thing with Bailey Ober, but I would try even harder in Michael King's case. I understand in deeper leagues you may not have much of a choice, but I kind of need some reassurance at this point before I feel optimistic about him. Not that I'm dropping him, but another couple more starts like this, and
I think
maybe we start to think about it.
Head-to-head points as a Sparp is the only place I'd start him right now.
Gavin Stone made his season debut on Sunday against the Cardinals. 5 innings, 3 runs allowed, 6 strikeouts, had 16 swinging strikes on 85 pitches. And Chris, the velocity was up for Gavin Stone. Fastball up 1.4 miles per hour. The changeup was up nearly 2 miles per hour. What'd you think of Gavin Stone, and would you start him this week at the Cubs?
Yeah, he didn't quite sustain the velocity all the way through as he went. He was like sitting 96 early on. It was more like 93, 94. But all in all, I think you have to be pretty impressed. A bunch of whiffs. The changeup looked as advertised. Really, really good. So you said against the Cubs, I think I would start him ahead of
Would you start him ahead of Michael King?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely would. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really excited about Gavin Stone at this point. Like Chris said, the changeup lived up to the billing finally.
And he was getting like right on right whiffs with that pitch.
Yeah.
Yep.
He threw it 41% of the time. It had a 50% whiff rate.
Yeah.
And also when they made contact, when the Cardinals made contact off Gavin Stone, 76.6 was the average exit velocity. So it was weak contact. And this looks like the guy who had those ridiculous numbers in the minors in 2022. And I'm between this and the spring Gavin Stone had, I'm really buying the explanations we got for last year, the pitch tipping and the blister on his toe early on that caused problems with his mechanics to set in. He looks amazing right now. He's still available in like 25% of CBS sports leagues. So if he's out there in one of yours, I think I'd prioritize Gavin Stone over Jared Jones and probably Jack Flaherty too.
All right, Scott, I'm going to throw 3 names your way. Max Fried, he only recorded 2 outs. Just a weird start at the Phillies, where he gave up 3 runs. He allowed 3 walks. His velocity was way up. I almost thought it was maybe they tracked this incorrectly. His fastball was up 3 miles per hour. His slider was up 7 miles per hour compared to where he normally sits. So just, I don't know, kind of a weird outing for Max Fried. Joe Ryan was solid at the Royals, 5 1/3, 1 run allowed, 5 strikeouts for him. His velocity was up. The splitter was up 4 miles per hour, slider up 4.5 miles per hour. So that was encouraging. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 5 shutout innings, 5 strikeouts against the Cardinals. And he did change his pitch mix from his first outing where he basically faded the cutter in this start and obviously had better results. Anything to take away here from Yamamoto, Joe Ryan, Max Fried?
I think Fried, we just got to write it off. And unless it becomes a trend, there's no reason to freak out and bench him or anything. It was obviously a bad start, but it just seemed like everything went wrong for him. Obviously has a great track record. Joe Ryan, Frank, you and I were pretty confident in him as a bust case this year, but this profile is so different with the velocity being way up on everything that I kind of don't know what to expect at this point. I'm still skeptical. Good first results. And that's all I can say about Joe Ryan right now. Yamamoto looks like he's on track. Like it was just I don't know. He was nervous. He talked about being nervous in that first start in Korea, major league debut technically. And his debut stateside here was much, much better. The command was as advertised. The secondary pitches played well. Must start Yamamoto. I think we can say at this point.
All right. Yeah, he's at the Cubs this week. So make sure to, if you had him out of your lineup, which you probably shouldn't have, make sure to get Yamamoto in there. We had a pair of pitchers duels out in Seattle. Nick Pivetta up against George Kirby on Friday night. Pivetta, 6 innings, 1 run, 10 strikeouts with 17 swinging strikes. And George Kirby on the other side, 6 2/3 shutout, 8 strikeouts with 17 swinging strikes. Chris, I thought this was an awesome showing for both of these guys, Nick Pivetta and George Kirby.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is Kirby didn't get any whiffs on his splitter. Right? Am I reading that right? So that was one of the pitches that we were pointing to as a reason why George Kirby might take a big step forward as a strikeout pitcher, and he didn't need that this time around. So that was interesting. And Pivetta, yeah, I'm feeling not so great about my Nick Pivetta skepticism right now. We'll see how things look moving forward, but the focus on the sweeper, especially going from 10% of the time last year or something like that to 33% is a big change. You got 8 of the whiffs on that one, so yeah, that was very impressive as well. We'll see how it looks moving forward. We have a long track record of Nick Pivetta not living up to expectations, especially when expectations are highest, but this was a very, very good start. Yeah, 5.4% usage for the sweeper last year for Pivetta. He introduced it in the second half, but this was one of the highest usages he's ever had, I'm pretty sure. And
the other pitchers duel in Seattle, Cutter Crawford against Logan Gilbert. Crawford, 6 innings, 1 unearned run, 7 strikeouts to 1 walk, completely changed his pitch mix. And that just seems like it might be an organizational just philosophy with the Red Sox where you're seeing Pivetta change his pitch mix, Cutter Crawford, Garrett Whitlock. They're all just doing new things this year. And obviously Crawford looked really good. Logan Gilbert on the other side, 7 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts with 16 swinging strikes. He threw a new cutter 14% of the time, and the slider was his most used pitch in this outing, 32%. Scott, anything to add on Logan Gilbert, Cutter Crawford?
No, not really. I think you about covered it.
Okay. Some other quick pitching leftovers. Part 1, Freddie Peralta was awesome at the Mets. 6 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts in that outing. Zach Wheeler, great against the Braves. 6 shutout with 5 strikeouts there. Spencer Strider struck out 8 at the Phillies. 5 innings, 2 runs with those 8 strikeouts. And he threw that new curveball 10 times in this outing. Got 2 of his 18 swinging strikes. And Kyle Harrison turned in a quality start at the Padres. 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts in that outing. I think the more notable point for Harrison is 0 walks, and that's obviously what we need to see. Chris, anything to add on Harrison, Strider, Wheeler, Peralta?
I got nothing.
Okay.
With Harrison, did you mention the 72% fastballs?
I did not know.
Yeah, he has a great fastball and doesn't seem to have a great secondary to go with it, and that was part of the reason his strikeout rate was lower in the majors than we ever saw it in the minors. I'm not sure whether to be encouraged or discouraged by the fact he's now leaning more into the fastball, because that's his best pitch, but he kind of needs something to go with it.
And it might be like that might be the key to not walking people, but can he get the strikeouts with that approach? That's 70% is like, I want to say there's like one Justin Verlander season recently, but like there are not a lot of examples of guys throwing a 4-seam fastball that often.
Yeah. Did want to add on Kyle Harrison. He's obviously you're holding on to him. This is a great start. He's at the Dodgers this week, so
yeah.
No thanks there on Kyle Harrison. Pitching standouts part 2. Bobby Miller looked great against the Cardinals. 6 shutout innings, 11 strikeouts, only 9 swinging strikes. That was a little weird. Grayson Rodriguez looked great against the Angels. 6 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts for him. And Kevin Gausman pitched well in his season debut at the Rays. 4 1/3, 1 run allowed, 6 strikeouts. Dealt with the shoulder in spring. Velocity was fine in this outing. All good on Kevin Gausman. Scott, anything to add on him, G-Rod, and Bobby Miller?
Apart from the impressive strikeout numbers for the 2 sophomores, not really.
Miller didn't get a ton of whiffs in this one, only 9 on 93 pitches. Well, that was just interesting because last year he didn't get as many strikeouts as you would think. And the whiff rates were across the board pretty good on all his pitches, and kind of the opposite in this start. But I think it's just all systems go for these 3 guys. I think they're all going to be aces or borderline aces.
All right, quickly run through some hitting leftovers and studs being studs. Fernando Tatis, 2 for 4 with a double dong on Friday. Both were hit over 109 exit velocity. One of them was 114.9. So looks good. Looks like Fernando Tatis. Mookie Betts is off to a scorching start, homered in 4 straight games. Luis Robert, 3 for 4 with a double dong on Saturday. Big weekend for Ozzie Albies, 3 for 5 with a sock and a shoe on Saturday, and then hit another home run on Sunday. Randy Arozarena had a huge game on Saturday, 2 for 3 with a sock and 2 shoes. That's right. 1 homer, 2 steals for Randy, and then added another solo home run on Sunday. Adolis Garcia, 1 for 4 with a sock and a shoe on Saturday. That's after 2 for 4 with a home run on opening day. CJ Abrams picked up 3 stolen bases on Saturday and then hit his first home run on Sunday. So he's off to a nice start. Christian Yelich, multiple hits on Friday and Saturday. Homered on Friday, added 2 steals on Sunday. Michael Harris, back-to-back 3-hit games on Friday and Saturday. One of those hits was a home run. And Juan Soto had himself a nice first weekend with the Yankees. 9 hits, including 1 homer, a go-ahead home run on Saturday. Some successful debuts. Jackson Chourio had 4 hits this weekend. He stole a base on Friday. I noticed that he is leading off against lefties, but batting 9th against righties. So don't love that. Hopefully it changes soon.
It'll change if his performance demands a change.
Something else I thought was interesting was they only started Joey Ortiz against lefties, and they started a gentleman named Oliver Dunn against righties this weekend. So See how long that lasts for the Brewers. Teoscar Hernandez, 2 for 3 with a double dong on Friday, added another home run on Sunday. He's now up to 3. Did you guys see this Rhys Hoskins drama on Friday with the it was a pretty late slide. Like, I understand why Jeff McNeil was upset. But Jeff McNeil was like screaming in Rhys Hoskins' face, and then Rhys Hoskins made his way back to the dugout and started doing like the "Wah, stop crying." It was pretty funny to watch.
It was like the villain from Rookie of the Year.
You can't come back from someone hitting you with a crying face. There's no coming back from it.
He waited until he was in the dugout to do it.
That's fine.
Kind of a wimpy move. I don't know. But he did go 3 for 4 with his.
That's the thing. He got the homer.
His first Brewers home run on Saturday. That was for Rhys Hoskins. Lots of bullpens to talk about. So we're gonna go a little bit longer here. Scott, I know you want to make sure we get to all these things, and there's
I feel like we should have gotten to it earlier, but that's fine.
Yeah, you're probably right. The Brewers this weekend. Trevor McGill in the 7th. This was on Friday. McGill was using the 7th, Payamps in the 8th, then Abner Uribe in the 9th, and he pitched a clean inning for his first save. Uribe then pitched again on Saturday with a 2-run lead. He gave up a solo homer, but picked up his second save. And then on Sunday, with Uribe unavailable, it was Yoel Payamps who pitched a clean 9th inning for his first save. But it looks like Uribe is the guy, the first one up. And
I think Uribe is the guy.
And he's 47% rostered. That number should be higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Payamps only got the save that third day because Uribe had worked 2 in a row. And, that inning went so well for Payamps that I can't help but wonder if that might cause, I've said his name so much recently, the Brewers manager.
Pat Murphy.
Pat Murphy, thank you, to mix it up a little. But if you're banking on any Brewers reliever right now, it should be Uribe.
Yeah, I would say don't drop Payamps if you can avoid it.
I agree.
Go ahead and drop McGill. Yes. Unfortunately, I think all 3 of them are really, really good, and I think whoever had that was what we were saying coming in. Whoever got the job, I think, is going to stick with the job because they're going to be really good in it. I still think Uribe has more meltdown potential than the other 2 guys. So, don't drop Payamps yet.
Yeah, and Payamps looked really good in the setup role on Friday. I think it was a clean inning. He struck out 2, so
he's really good.
Yeah,
there was.
For the Phillies on Friday, Jose Alvarado got the 8th inning with the game tied. He gave up 5 earned runs, took the loss, and then on Sunday he bounced back. A 1-run lead in the 9th inning, pitched a perfect inning with 1 strikeout, picked up his first save. So
they used him in the 8th inning Friday because Matt Olson and Michael Harris were 2 of the 3 hitters due up. That seemed pretty clear to me. What was odd is that they used Jeff Hoffman the inning before. So who would have lined up for the save in the 9th if it had come to that? I don't know. Sir Anthony Dominguez, maybe, I don't know. But I do think they consider Jose Alvarado to be their highest leverage reliever, at least, which is why he was back out to get the save on Sunday, despite that rough 8th inning on Friday. So he still remains the guy to roster from the Phillies bullpen, but it's a little bit murky.
For the D-backs on Friday, Kevin Ginkel pitched the 9th inning with a 4-run lead. He gave up a hit, but no runs. And then on Sunday, he got the 9th inning again with a 4-run lead. Looks like Kevin Ginkel is the guy in the absence of Paul Sewald. For the Guardians on Friday, Emmanuel Clase gave up 2 hits, but picked up his first save. For the Mariners on Friday, Andres Munoz got the final 4 outs, 3 via the strikeout for his first save. For the White Sox on Saturday, Jordan Leisure pitched the 6th inning with a 2-run lead. John Brebbia later pitched the 9th. That was with the game tied. And then on Sunday, Brebbia pitched he got 2 outs across the 6th and the 7th inning. He was relieved by Michael Kopech, who recorded 5 outs, 3 of those via the strikeout. So I don't know if we're any closer to figuring out the White Sox bullpen, at least not yet. So
no, but Kopech is still the one I want, especially as good as he looks Sunday.
Might be some confirmation bias there, but yeah, I agree. Kopech's the guy to have here. He looked really good, and the stuff metrics were all really positive about the way he looked.
For the Tigers on Saturday, Alex Lang pitched the 7th inning with the game tied. He walked 3, only recorded 1 out. And then on Sunday, Jason Foley got the final 2 outs with just a 1-run lead for his second save. And we had Fab run in a few 15-teamers so far. And Foley went for 261 and $286 in a $1,000 fab budget. He's 27% rostered. Obviously, you got to go out and add Jason Foley. I think Alex Lang could be dropped too.
That's what I'm more confident that you can drop Alex Lang than I am that Jason Foley is just the closer now.
I'm pretty confident Foley's the closer, though. I understand both of his saves were not a full inning, and the Tigers' best two relievers apart from him are both left-handers. So there was a left-hander who worked the 8th inning each of those games, and I think a left-hander was due up first in the 9th. So AJ Hinch just stuck with that left-hander to face the left-handed batter, and then brought in Foley after that left-handed batter was retired. Which, you know, if it just so happens that a left-handed batter is going to lead off the 9th inning, it doesn't. There's no reason for AJ Hinch not to do that. It's not like the reliever is going to get pulled for a pinch hitter. That doesn't happen anymore, and it hasn't happened in the American League in 50 years.
What I would say, though, is
what were you
Jason,
gonna say?
it's not just that their other relievers are lefties. It's that Jason Foley's really bad against lefties. Historically, he's had like a sub 600 OPS against righties and a plus 800 against lefties. And so, like, what I worry about here is, what if the second batter of the inning is a lefty? How are they going to approach those situations? Do they, like, I think part of it is just that, like, Shelby Miller might be their best reliever.
Oh, that's true. I didn't.
And so, what if there's a situation?
Their second and third best reliever were both left-handers, but I forgot about Shelby Miller.
So I think the bigger takeaway here is Alex Lang seems to be out of the picture. We'll see if
I'm not saying Foley. I'm not saying there will never be a situation where one of those left-handers gets the save instead, but it does seem like Foley is Hinch's most trusted guy, and because of the 3-batter minimum rule, it's only going to allow for so much mixing and matching on AJ Hinch's part. So if Alex Lang is getting 75, not Alex Lang. If Jason Foley is getting 75% of the saves for a team that looks like it could be a contender, that's probably going to be enough to justify the big bids that we're seeing in these leagues where saves are scarce. I would prefer to have Foley over Abner Uribe, even, because there's the potential runway of a full season there in Foley's case, and because I think he's really good. But it's not for sure yet, but it's the most attractive save target that we've seen emerge on the waiver wire this year, in my opinion. And I saw him go for over 400 in my TGFBI league. I was the runner-up at 168. So
I'm okay not getting him at that.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yep. Blowing money. Here we are. For the Reds on Saturday, Alexis Diaz got the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. He gave up 3 runs on 2 hits and 2 walks. He took the blown save and the loss in that one. For the Nationals on Saturday, Kyle Finnegan got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. He picked up his first save. And then on Sunday, Finnegan was called upon again in the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. He gave up a 2-run homer to Will Benson and then a back-to-back walk-off home run to Christian Encarnacion Strand. For the Royals on Saturday, Will Smith got the 9th inning with the game tied. He gave up 4 earned runs and took the loss. I had, in some of those deeper leagues, I was willing to drop Will Smith to get either Jason Foley or Uribe if he was out there. I mean, maybe Will Smith is just the guy, but he just looks so bad.
Kevin Ginkel was out there in one of my leagues still too. But yeah, no, I mean, sticking with him for now in those deep saves leagues, but I agree that those other guys would be better.
For the Twins on Saturday, Griffin Jax pitched the 8th inning with the game tied. He faced the top of the Royals lineup. They took a 4-run lead, and then Brock Stewart pitched the 9th. He allowed a single, but struck out 3.
Warned you not to drop that, Brock Stewart.
So, they might be mixing and matching a little bit.
They might be. And I think Brock Stewart is better than Griffin Jax. So if Jax hasn't claimed the job outright yet, there's still a chance Stewart could. At least for as long as this lasts.
For the Rockies on Saturday, Tyler Kinley pitched the 8th inning with a 5-run lead. Justin Lawrence got the 9th. So I think that might be an indication that Lawrence will get the first save opportunity. For the Cardinals on Saturday, Ryan Helsley got the 9th with a 2-run lead. He gave up a Gave up 2 runs on 4 hits. He took the blown save, but wound up with the win. Giovanni
His
Gallegos
velocity.
got the save in the 10th inning.
Ryan Helsley's velocity is still down, though.
Yeah.
Average 97 with his four-seam fastball in this one. That's down 2.7 miles per hour. It was down in the spring as well. Slider has still been a really good pitch. He's still getting a lot of whiffs, but we have not seen a version of Ryan Helsley who pitches in this velocity band and is successful. So that's the only thing I'm pointing out there.
I will mention, though, that Giovanni Gallegos' velocity was down just as much as Helsley's in this outing. Maybe you can survive it better, but...
Yeah.
For the Pirates, after our opening day scare, David Bednar looks fine. He pitched on Saturday with a 6-run lead, and then he got the 9th inning on Sunday with a 1-run lead. He did give up a solo homer to Nick Gordon, but wound up with the win. For the Marlins on Sunday, Tanner Scott got the 10th inning with the game tied. He gave up 2 unearned runs on a walk and a hit. I saw some people speculating on Anthony Bender already in Fab, so we'll see what happens with the Marlins. For the Rangers on Sunday, Jose Leclerc got the 9th inning with the game tied. He gave up 4 runs on 3 walks and a hit. He took the loss. Would you look to get David Robertson on your team if you had Jose Leclerc in a categories league?
I think you have to. We've seen Leclerc go through these lapses with control, and he comes out of it usually. But because Bruce Bochy already seemed to be hedging on him this spring, I don't know that Leclerc's going to have a particularly long leash. So 2 really rough outings to begin the year. I'd want to protect that asset.
And the thing there is David Robertson, when he's right, at least, he wasn't right with the Marlins, but for the most part over the last half decade, really, he has been good enough that he could just run away with the job. Even if Leclerc does figure it out eventually, if Robertson gets the opportunity, Robertson could just be the guy.
And then for the Cubs on Sunday, Hector Neris pitched the 8th inning with the game tied. They took that 4-run lead. Adbert Alzolay came out for the 9th. So I thought it was nice to see Alzolay once again using the 9th inning, even after blowing that save on opening day. We're going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.